G'day everyone, welcome back to my weekly tipping video. As always, this preview is brought to you by PlayUp. If you are thinking of having a punt on the NRL this round, make sure it's through PlayUp, guys. But as always, please gamble responsibly. G'day everyone, Clarkey here. Let's jump straight into my round 21 tips for this week. Very great week last week in the NRL. Probably, one of the more entertaining rounds there has been for a while. So with that being said, let's jump straight into Thursday night, guys, at Suncorp Stadium. The Newcastle Knights are taking on the Brisbane Broncos. In this game, I really like the Newcastle Knights, especially with Mitchell Pearce set to return there at 7. I thought the Knights looked pretty good last week, and Kalen Ponga, they just looked a different side with KP, Bradman Best, David Clemmer, all these guys that have been in and out for the last few weeks. And then they've also got a good crop of young guns such as Anari Chiwala who are just improving with every game. So although the Knights currently sit in, they currently sit in 11th position, they are one of those teams where I could see them really making a run in these last 5 games, just because when we look at this Knights side, they haven't really been 100% without injuries all year, which is really unfortunate. But I'm going to go ahead and tip the Knights there. I'm tipping the Knights by at least 10 points. They should have a bit too much class for the Broncos. Friday, 6 p.m, the Canberra Raiders take on the St. George Illawarra Dragons at Cbus Super Stadium. I'm probably with the Raiders in this one. I just think that the Dragons haven't really looked themselves since the whole barbecue incident, and that's because their team has been chopped and changed so much. This week we see Jack Bird move to fullback. They will get a big inclusion with Zach Lomax returning, obviously, but what I do feel is with Ben Hunt out with a fractured arm for 4 weeks, I think we will start to see the Dragons struggle. Currently they sit in 10th position, so they have dropped out of the top 8, and to be honest, I think it'll probably stay that way, to be honest. I think the Titans could probably hang on to that 7th spot, and so 8th spot, I think it'll be a competition between the Sharks, Raiders, and the Knights. Of those options, I probably like the Raiders or the Knights the most. Similarly, just because the Sharks also have halfback issues with Sean Johnson out. But back to the Dragons, guys. No Ben Hunt. I think they will really struggle. So I'm going to go ahead and tip the Canberra Raiders there by 10 points. I know they didn't look their best last week against the Knights, but they should bounce back here. Later that night at Cbus Stadium in a double-header, we've got the Parramatta Eels taking on the South Sydney Rabbitohs. I'm with the Bunnies here, guys. I don't need to explain this one too much. The Eels haven't looked themselves the last few weeks. They look like a tired football team. They look like a football team that's played their best footy, and I think that's really unfortunate because there has been a common theme here for the Eels over the past few years where they time their run at the wrong time. And what I mean by that is we see experienced teams like the Storm, like the Bunnies, sort of go to a new level when it matters during the finals and towards the end of a year, whereas the Eels seem to go to that level from rounds 1 to 10, when it doesn't really matter all that much. So they will get Mitchell Moses back, that's massive, but then they're also missing Regan Campbell-Gillard, who I believe has been one of their best forwards this year. All in all, the Bunnies are red hot at the moment, so I'm going to go ahead and tip them to win by 13 plus. They should have too much class there for the Eels, who, as I said, just seem to be struggling. Saturday, 3 p.m, also at Cbus Super Stadium, the New Zealand Warriors take on the Cronulla Sharks. Now, the Warriors got a magnificent win last week, and it was really impressive when you keep in mind all the outs they had in terms of injuries and Roger Tuivasa-Sheck and Leeson Armour leaving. Now, this week they will get Matt Lodge and Adam Fanua-Blake back, and a couple other players. Now, that's obviously massive for the club and will really help them. But if I'm being honest, I do like the Sharks in this one. I thought the Sharks actually played pretty well against Manly. I know the scoreline of 22-40 suggests otherwise, but, I just think the Sharks, when they faded out of that contest, Tom Trbojevic probably hit the best form that we've seen out of him all year, which is a very bold statement when you consider just how great he's been this year. But I think it was a combination of the Sharks faded out a little bit and Tom Trbojevic just absolutely took over. And so I am going to take the Sharks here against the Warriors, although one's coming off a win, one's coming off a loss. I think the Sharks will have enough. They sit just inside the 8 at the moment, so that should be enough motivation for them to realise, hey, we need to be beating teams like the Warriors who are in 12th. Otherwise, what chance are we giving ourselves in finals? So I'm going to go the Sharkies there, but I think it will be tight. I'm going to go the Sharkies by 6 points. Later that night at Suncorp Stadium, guys, 5:30 p.m, the Sydney Roosters take on the Penrith Panthers. Now, we are hearing Nathan Cleary is a chance to return this round. He has been named at 21, so he can come into the 17 if he's fit to. They also get Api Coruscant back, and they'll also get Isaiah Yeo back. Now, Tavita Pengai Jr. is also named on the bench to make his Panthers debut, and for that reason, I'm going to go the Penrith Panthers. I think they'll want to introduce Tavita on a win, show him what the Penrith Panthers are all about. The Roosters are a side the Panthers realise they might have to play in the finals, and so this will be a good chance for the club to really put an exclamation mark on. I know that they are missing Nathan Cleary, and that's huge, and we can't understate that. However, they did get a win over the Melbourne Storm with Matt Burton and Jerome Luai in the halves earlier this year. We can't forget that. And Storm, as we know, are sitting first above them. They did smoke them last week, but with the halves that they currently have, they do have a win over easily the best team in this competition. So I'm with the Panthers there, guys. The Roosters will definitely be up for a fight, but so I'm only going to tip the Panthers there by 8 points. 7:35 p.m. Saturday night, the Manly Sea Eagles take on the Melbourne Storm. This will be game of the round because the Sea Eagles are in 6th, but they're probably the form team of this competition right now, aside from the Melbourne Storm. You can't go past what the Storm are doing. They are absolutely dominant. But I have said, sort of since Manly went on this run, that I do feel if there was one team to disrupt the Storm and potentially get them off their game and snatch a victory, then I do believe it is the Manly Sea Eagles. The Sea Eagles are at close to full strength this game, as are the Melbourne Storm. So when you compare these two rosters head to tail, it's definitely going to make for a magnificent contest. If I have to make a safe tip, I'm going to go the Melbourne Storm. And that's just because they've won 15 in a row. But I do think if the Storm were ever going to lose, it is this round. So keep that in mind, Manly fans. I'm not tipping you guys, but if you were to win, I wouldn't be too shocked because you guys are in magnificent form at the moment. I'll go the Storm by 1 point in a nail-biter. Sunday, 1:50 p.m. The Canterbury Bulldogs take on the West Tigers. I'm going to go the Doggies here for an upset. I know they sit in 16th, and I know the Tigers were, pretty disappointing last round, losing to a Warriors team that realistically they should have smoked. But they didn't, and that's just where the Tigers are at the moment. They are so up and down, and so if they do win this game, I'm not hugely shocked. They've been so up and down this year. They do welcome back James Tarmo, but the loss of Dane Laurie is massive. I don't necessarily rate Moses Mbai. My apologies there, my phone going off. I don't necessarily rate Moses Mbai as a fullback. I think he's a utility at best at this level in the NRL. So him moving to fullback does concern me because the Tigers' attack just hasn't looked that good with Dane Laurie there, who we know is an amazing attacking weapon. All in all, I won't be shocked if the Tigers win here, guys. Let me say that. But I'm going to go ahead and tip the Doggies. I'm excited to see their young Bailey Biondi Odo. I hope I pronounced that right. Now, he scored a try against my team last week, the Titans. I believe he's been playing a bit of hooker. He starts at 5'8", so he'll have a lot of energy there, and he could provide some spark there for the Doggies. There are a lot of reasons to tip the Tigers here, guys. The Tigers are the safe tip. I've got no doubt about that, but I'm going to go the Doggies for an upset. To finish off the round, guys, Seabar Super Stadium, 4:05 p.m. The Gold Coast Titans, who are now in the top 8, take on the North Queensland Cowboys. Again, I'm going to go my team here. I know the Cowboys do welcome back Valentine Holmes, and that's obviously massive for them. But Todd Payton did say earlier this year, if Valentine Holmes returns, he won't be at 100%. So I get the feeling they're sort of rushing him back because they realise we need to start winning every game if we're a chance for the finals. And I just don't think the Titans are in a position to let them do that. They'll be without Tyrone Peachy, but I do think that they should have more than enough. Now, what is interesting about this, again, Jamal Fogarty is not within the 17. He has been named at 21, and as we know, he is ready to return from that compound fracture in his finger. So could Justin Holbrook controversially leave out their co-captain Jamal Fogarty in favour of Toby Sexton, who's looked absolutely red hot and quite sexy in first grade so far, living up to that last name. We don't know how he's going to target that situation, but what we do know is the Titans will get a win here. That's what my heart says. That's what I'm tipping. I'm going to go the Gold Coast Titans. I'm going to go my team by 8 points there, at least against the Cowboys. But that wraps up my round 21 NRL tips, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in, and I'll see you all next week with my round 22 NRL tips. Thank you.